Welcome back to Best Green Homestead. Today we're redoing our roof and we're putting solar panels up on the south side here. The boys are ripping the shingles. They got started at 6 a.m. Already almost done ripping the whole roof. Got it loaded in the dump trailer here. We parked it right below the window. We're figuring out our roof fence. We cut some bigger holes, but our solar panel racking system, the aluminum railing system for the solar panels here, is going this way, and we're putting 30 235 watt solar panels on this south side of the roof. So we're realizing that it may be best to move our ventilation over to the north side. South is actually in that direction towards that chicken coop. So we'll come back to you and show you when we start to get some of the railing set up with the flashing to go around. You got to add the flashing as you can do it afterwards after your shingles are done. It's meant to be done afterwards, but we're going to do it more properly before, because Dylan has a smarter method, being a quality roofer, unlike most, to seal it properly around there so you know you don't have leaks for 20-50 years. Doing it proper here with ice and water shield. What is it, 3 feet of ice and water shield, Dylan? 6 feet? 3 feet's half decent, but 6 is even better, I guess, right?
So you got one roll, you got your 3 feet here, 6 feet there.
3 feet, 6 feet. And then Brendan's putting on the drip edge. Wasn't on our roof. It's not needed for code, but you should definitely have it. And then synthetic paper all the way. They didn't even have synthetic paper. Did they have synthetic paper anywhere on the roof? No, eh?
No, they had 3 feet of tar paper, then your bare plywood.
3 feet of, oh, so they did have tar paper. I thought it was just synthetic down there. They did the bare minimum code for Canada, which is, oh, okay. Yeah, not quite as good, eh? But if you're doing your roof, you want to make sure it lasts a long time. If you're not a home builder and you're doing everything at the bare minimum for the minimum cost, you want to make sure that you do it right, and you want to make sure you get a roofing company that likes to do the job right, or else they're just going to cheap out. Here you can see the other side where they're doing it. They obviously put the cheap 20-year shingles on. They actually only last 10. We had blow-offs when we bought the house, and the house was only 10 years old. It was built in 2010. So depends on if you have the money to put it in right away, but you know, you got that peace of mind where you're not going to have your roof leaking, and you're not going to have drywall to patch in your house and water damage. We had a minor water leak when we bought the house. I had to get up over there and patch the water leak. Luckily I got it in time, and we had another blow off in this storm in the Ottawa area where it was near tornado winds again. We didn't get as strong of winds, but it still blew off some shingles and blew off a big section, and of course bare plywood showing because they didn't even have synthetic paper down. And then they're putting the architectural shingles on, which are essentially a double layer of shingles compared to the 3 tab, so it will be an extra layer of protection on top of everything. And they're better quality shingles that are expected to last at least twice as long, especially compared to the very poor quality 3 tab. Okay, so what are you doing here now, Dylan?
So right now we're putting the anchors for the flashing. You have your anchor, put it on the key of your shingle. I'll show you
What's
why.
the key, if they don't know?
This part here on the shingle,
right
where the other shingle overlaps onto it. So that
because
way
they're the quality shingles and they're 2 layers.
Exactly. So you put that there. You have it lined up on a truss, joist, whatever you want to call it, rafter. I have a line chalked, but of course my starter shingle is in the way, but I already pre-drilled my hole. pre-drill your hole, put the one in, then pre-drill your hole, put your second one in.
So 2 leg screws going right into the roof truss.
Yep.
A lot easier if you're doing this. A lot easier to find your roof trusses if you're doing it while you're doing shingles. And
Exactly.
Dylan's doing a much better job than the solar companies even recommend by cutting your shingles around it, correct?
Yes.
Whereas they don't necessarily call for that.
Missed that one.
Now, I could put a little roofing tire in that if you wanted to, if you had the extra hole, but it's all going to be covered up by the flashing anyways, right?
I'll show you why. As you can see, the ones that we've already installed, they're fully covered.
Sometimes your trusses aren't perfectly straight, especially if you don't have a... if you don't have a good quality home builder, which none are now.
Perfect. Pull on that, doesn't budge, you're good.
You know, it's solid in there, and then the flashing goes on top of that, as you can see down here.
Dylan, are you going to be in your way if you lay down bundle?
Wait.
Put 1,
Then you
2,
take your flashings,
4, 5.
put them on,
File like I showed you there.
down the key. Then by doing this, you can nip here. Always the edge.
So there's no pre-drilled holes, so
No.
I was thinking there's...
And doing it this way, you'll
Holes
never have
originally,
any
but-
exposed nails. As you can see, there's 0 exposed nails. No need to caulk anything. It just goes with the roofing system now.
Caulking is really just a backup, and it shouldn't ever be used as your primary source to protect for leaks, as Dylan was explaining to me before.
Go here. I like to give a 1/4 inch on each side of my flashing, so that way you give the water a
Place to go kind of thing.
exactly. You give the water a place to go, because water takes the path of least resistance all the time.
Make your marks by putting up to it rather than having to
Yeah,
measure all
I
the
don't-
time and all that crap.
Yeah, and I don't. I only make the marks on it. I don't do the actual cut on it because you run the risk of cutting through the metal. Sometimes they're rubber, depending where you go.
Or other
And you don't
shingles
wanna
if
do
you
that.
slip or something.
Exactly.
And roofing tip, where are your nails supposed to go? That many roofers don't put it in the right spot, as we know.
On these ones, it's pretty easy, but I still see it. There's a white line here. As long as you're between the key and the top of the white line, black line, in that 1 inch, that's where you need to be.
And that,
In there, sometimes people nail up here. That's called high nailing. That's not good for business.
and that's, I think some of our shingles are like that on this roof, or exposed nails even. It's different when you have repairs. Sometimes you have exposed nails, but you can tell that, I'll let him go. You can tell the reason he explained to me before was here you see the shingle is doubled up. So you're putting a nail through 2 layers of shingles holding the whole thing together rather than just a single layer. And why do you do this on the side here, Dylan, with the
Starter,
sideways
yes.
shingles?
Just in case water. It just helps.
Just extra, yeah. I always
more
knew
so,
you do that, but
So these shingles have support so they don't curl that way on you over time. That's all that's for. And then at the bottom,
Okay.
is to go over the gap.
just doing some finishing touches here on the roof now. As you can see, we've got the solar racking mounts for the aluminum rails fully on the bottom. And then we have some of them started here on the top. Unfortunately, we thought that they quoted us to put them every 2 feet roof truss, and it turns out they gave us the mounts only for every 4 feet or less, apparently, the solar company. So when we were installing the shingles here, we left one row unnailed, where these roof mounts have to go. So all they do have is one nail on the shingle up top that will be going through just the tip of this shingle. So that holds it in place for now, along with the tar on the bottom of the shingles, so that the wind shouldn't be able to lift them up and we're not going to have a blow off. But that way, when we get some more of these solar mounts and the flashing system here, we're going to be able to put them underneath the shingle properly and cut them around the same way. You can do it like this after you're done a shingled roof, or if you're putting your system, on a roof that was already shingled a while ago. The problem with that is it's going to be a lot more difficult to be able to get under there, and you're going to have to pop out any nails that are in the way and get them out of your way to be able to get it in far enough to be able to cut it around and do it in this method. So it may even be impossible to get it quite as good as this. So that's why it is best to do your shingles or metal roof before or during the process of your solar install. As you can tell, it's going to be much better quality to be done this way. If it's done this way, you could sleep at night knowing you're never going to have any leaks, because you got the shingles overlapping the system, as it's a water shedding system, and you don't want to ever rely on caulking or tar if you don't have to, especially when you're putting this many holes in the roof and you've got this many possibilities for leaks. Some of the touch-ups we're doing right now, I'm just coming along and I'm just putting some tar on some of the nails around the flange that you can't really avoid. And then here there's some nails on the maxi vents. Now, we didn't have any on hand, but it would have been even better to put screws in with the washers like you see on metal roofing. But at least this way you've only got 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15 nails exposed in the entire roofing system, as opposed to having holes exposed for all of this solar racking system. So soon you're going to see, we'll probably do a second video, the solar racking system install. I might do a video to show you how you can install your mounts while you have your shingles already installed, and how you can slip them under, because we're going to be doing that for the rest of them here. We'll probably only do 4 foot on center for the mounts. So we'll be skipping each truss, as we have 2 foot spacing in our trusses. A lot of roof trusses they can be anywhere from 16 on center all the way up to 5 feet. It all depends on what sheeting is used on top. The further apart they are, you're going to have heavier sheeting, plywood or OSB sheeting on your roof. So it all depends on that, and I don't believe it was required in Ontario, in Canada, to have this many mounts, but I'm kind of glad this mistake was made, because we have incredibly strong winds lately, and as you know, we're in the Ottawa area and we've had tornado type winds, 190 kilometers an hour. I drove by houses recently where their entire roof was ripped off. So that makes me want to actually go in our attic and go and screw down the truss system more properly with some bigger lag screws to know that it's on there solid. Reason being is I know home builders, and I know this home builder in particularly cut a lot of corners. When I was finishing my basement, I saw a lot of mistakes, even things that weren't up to code that I had to improve. So that will be, I can imagine they didn't screw and nail down the trusses very much. They probably, half-assed it and put down some nails and skipped some nails, because I know when we were finishing the basement, I noticed they skipped out on even cutting any of the strapping on the ceiling. So you had 2 pieces of strapping coming together, and they didn't end in the middle of a floor joist. So they're just coming together and they're not cut, so the drywall would just be able to move freely. So it needs to be supported by a truss, or else that's how you have those screw pops. And that's how I know we have screws popping in our drywall even after I've repaired them multiple times over and over again. And you'll see this in most home builders, Minto and all the ones that just want to slap them together. I think that's what they do with every home build, is they just, oh, we just won't cut the strapping. Like, just slap it up, and wherever the 12 feet ends, it ends. That's very shoddy work, and you're always going to have deficiencies, and people always have warranty claims. I have friends that complain about this issue, and guess what? We don't have any screws popping in our basement because I did it properly. I had to go back and put blocking where they didn't have the strapping cut properly and screw the strapping into the blocking so that it didn't have screws pop. Just simple, stupid stuff like that. Like on this roof, we noticed they didn't even, they just had the plywood end where it ended, and it didn't even go up to the peak. It didn't even go up to the ridge of the roof properly. It was as if it was cut for ridge vent. Like, just, and then where I stepped in one area and it almost cracked through on the OSB. Just shoddy work where they're just like, oh yeah, just throw it together, got to get to the next house. And that's the way everything is done nowadays with home builds. That's why when I'm doing my renovations, I make sure to fix everything, bring it up to code and above, and just make sure that it's nice and strong. So, long-winded story about why I'm glad this happened was, now we're going to have wind coming here, and these solar panels in the front are going to be secure way better than anything else. And we know our winds come from this direction, so they're going to be coming, and they're going to hit this solar panel that's attached to the roof a lot better, and then it's also going to be coming from this angle. So this part where the wind's going to hit it the most is going to be the most secure, and then from here on out we'll just do the 4-foot spacing to save a little bit of money, and it's not as exposed to winds that way anyways. I'm going to level these maxi vents. I was going to do that but on my own anyways, and I'm just putting some tar here, and the finishing touches I mentioned was tarring around the couple screw holes we couldn't really avoid from the internet unit here. So we're just using some roofing tar. Here you can see it's another day and the roof is finished. We've got the maxi vents installed, all the tar caulking on any open screws, or nails rather, is done. You can see they did a nice job on the valleys there, and got the flange done here. I'm just coming back here. You can see the garage roof we haven't done yet. We're going to get solar panels on that once that's done. And here, this is also doubled up where the wind comes the most. So now I've just got to come, I'm going to chalk a line up on where these ones are, and I'm going to go just every 4 feet. So I'm going to skip that one, and I'm going to chalk a line up here. And we didn't nail in the shingles all the way. So if I'm able to record while I'm doing some of this, I'll show you how you can install one of these. I'll see if I'm able to show you how to install one of these by using a flat bar and peeling up the shingle a little bit, and then getting this under. After I made my mark, I can drill my hole and put that in right away. Pre-drill my hole, and then after I take it away, I can cut it out with a razor blade, and then I'll be able to fit this flashing over top of it after the mount is there and cut it out so it looks just like that one. And this flap will be underneath there, and we didn't nail here, so I can do this afterwards. There's going to be some nails missing from the shingles, but it'll be nailed up at the top from the other one, so they should be more than secure, and there's going to be really no wind getting in here anyways because of the solar panels, so we're not too worried about it. You can see it was such a hot day that the shingles were actually peeling when we were doing it. It almost kind of damaged them, luckily, because we were sitting in one spot too long doing these because we were doing the solar stuff. So anyways, I'm going to get to that, and I'll see if maybe I can show you how you can do this. This is how you would have to do it if you're installing it. If you're installing a solar racking system after shingles were already installed, which as you can tell, is a lot more work. So it is best, if you're gonna do a solar system, try and plan it as you need to do your roof like we were planning. So here you can see I just chalked a line right there coming from my existing solar mounts, as I know they already line up with the roof truss. But if you're not able to do this, you'll have to go over to the edge of the roof at the soffit and see where your truss might be, or pre-drill and actually go in with somebody in the attic and see where your hole goes through until you find that truss, and measure over. You drill to the side of it kind of thing, measure over, find the middle, make sure you hit it. It's a pain in the butt, so it's a lot easier again to do while you're doing your roof. Much better quality job too. Now you might have caught my mistake. I just about did it 2 feet over. I'm supposed to go 4 feet over. Almost started getting the drill ready. So I'll chalk it over here and go 4 feet over, because we're going 4 foot on center now. So now I had to take a flat pry bar and hammer it underneath and keep going around till I loosened up all that tar, because we had some hot days and they stuck down. So now that that's done, I should be able to drill my holes here for this, and then I can cut around it, and then we can get that on and slip our flashing up underneath. Now there might be a nail there, and then sometimes you have to take some nails out if they're in the way, so we'll see. So here you can see we chalked out our lines off our existing solar mounts here. You can see one right here. So we just came off. This is the next day. I would have liked to get them all done at night because the shingles are cooler and it's easier to pump them up rather than when they stop. But it's a nice breezy day right now, and it just rained this morning, so the shingles are actually pretty cool to the touch, so they shouldn't rip apart on me too much. So now I'm gonna go along and I'm able to mark out where I need these mounts, and we're gonna cut them out the same as I did there last night and tried to show you. You can see the two I did here. Shingle cut isn't the most perfect. I just have a carpet knife I'm using. I don't actually have my shingling knife handy. Can't find one, and our buddy Dylan is gone with all of his roofing stuff, so I'm gonna get these ones done. As you can see here, we got our main soil stack, so sometimes there's obstructions and we're not gonna be able to put these ones in. So that one would line up and need to go right there, so that's not gonna work. So what we're gonna do is I just doubled it up, so I'm just gonna double up the run before and the run afterwards, and then that way it's just gonna be more sturdy here, and then we're gonna have to skip a solar panel or just space them out perfectly so that it's on either side of that main soil stack. All right, I'll see if I can come back. Here you can see we've got the shingle cut. I got this pre-drilled out with our drill bit, screwed in with the big lag screws and the washers and the rubber washers directly into our roof truss. Now our shingles are getting hot and they're wanting to stick already, but since I freed them up earlier, we're now able to, this is all you need to do now, is just slip this over, and I'm gonna need 2 hands for a second. Just slip that over and up and all the way up until that gets in. You can straighten it out. Now, Dylan nailed these in when he was doing it. I think he was getting a little too carried away, but that's okay. It's gonna make it stronger, but it's not necessary because these stay in place, and then there's a little nut to go on there to hold this down. Plus, when the little L brackets are going on, everything's gonna be held tight. That flashing is just to divert water if any gets under the shingles. So we've got this little bag of nuts with lock washers on. They kind of are, they're lock nut. They've got a built-in washer with the grooves to be a lock washer built in. So then just screw those on like that. And this one's done. Now I just got to go down with the pry bar, down in line with this lower one, pry up the shingles, cut it out, screw it on, begin again. And I've got mine marked out for all there. Get them up and we're ready for the racking system project once we get these mounts up. And we'll probably do another video to show the rail system going on this, getting the racking system on. And we'll probably have one video for that and another video for the actual solar panels being mounted. Maybe we'll combine them, I'm not sure, but be sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you want to be notified when we got more of these videos on the solar project here. We've got a total of, we're going to be putting up a total of 37 panels. So on the garage that I showed you there on the other side, once we shingle that, we already have the racking system to put up solar panels there as well. So it's going to be about 37 panels. We're getting close to 10,000 watts of solar, and that's about enough to be off grid. So we're hoping we're going to be able to disconnect our tie from the grid soon enough. Mind you, we got a lot of incubators we usually use, so we're higher than usual, but we'll see. Maybe we move those to the other farm location there and be able to disconnect from the grid, because we pay like $60 in delivery fee a month at least at our lowest bill, when our bill's only 100, 120. Half of it's just to deliver the energy, right, and all the losses that they incur along the way. So we'll have the video of the racking system, the video of the solar panels going up. We're doing them in series parallel. So yeah, we're doing that. We'll show you the hybrid inverter, the pros and cons. We already have that installed in the garage. I'm still going to do kind of a review video and show you how it's set up. And then later on we'll get into the details where you can track the sun that you get from your solar panel array. You can get a module that goes to your iPhone so that you can see exactly how many kilowatt hours you're producing. We might get into that, I might not, but it does almost everything just on the unit itself. Right now it's connected to the grid, and the grid's just powering everything, but once these solar panels get in, then it'll use all the solar panel it can possibly use to offset anything used in our house that's connected to the sub panel. And then we got a battery bank that we still have to wire up, and we're going to install that. And once that's installed, all the extra solar, of course, is going to be charged in the battery bank and used during the night. And you can set your priorities on this Phocos Hybrid All-in-one charge controller to have priorities for one or the other. We're going to have a solar priority, and we're probably going to charge the batteries so that all the solar power is used to power all the loads in the house, to use up every single watt of solar. And then only after that will and charge the batteries. It'll make sure the batteries are topped off, and then only after that will it actually use the grid power to power stuff. And then eventually, if we have enough solar, then we can make our disconnect from the grid. But before that, you don't have to rely just on solar and generators and batteries. You could slowly grow your system on grid, not grid tied where you're putting your excess power into the grid. You're putting the excess power into your own house, because you put enough circuits on your critical sub panel for your solar system that the solar will be used up 100% when the sun's shining. Whether that might be your AC, that's one thing we're probably going to add, because when there's a lot of sun, you need a lot of AC, so that's one way that it can use up excess power without it going to waste. So all those watts will be used up, and we'll get into more detail on that later, but be sure to subscribe. There's a lot of details in that. I'll probably start with the basics and go more in depth. I've done a lot of research on it. Sometimes it's hard to just go off the top of my head and explain it, but if you want to learn more, you can learn as we're learning and see if maybe doing a solar setup makes sense for you. If you're doing your roof already and you're thinking about it, I would recommend at least you could put these solar mounts in. Doesn't mean you have to even buy the aluminum racking system right away. You could, if you need to do your roof, you could get your mounts in, and they could stay there for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years even. If you do a good enough roof, I wouldn't recommend that, because shortly after you want your solar panels to not have to be removed to redo your roof. That's the idea of doing it at the same time as your roof, your solar and your roof at the same time. So the shingles under here will last even longer. They're 40-year shingles, which we all know means 20 years really, but the 40-year ones are actually quality and sometimes can last 40 years, especially if they're not hit by the sun, because the sun is what degrades your shingles the most. So do your solar at the same time as your shingles, and you probably, if you're lucky, you'll only ever have to do the shingles that aren't being covered by the shingles. The shingles that aren't being covered by the solar panels, mind you. Anyways, that's all for this video. Be sure to check it out. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course YouTube under @BestGreenHomestead. And subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button if you like it, and be sure to follow along for every video that we keep doing on solar, and see if we can't go off grid soon enough. Thank you. Happy homesteading from our family to yours.